monsters of Manchester City. Pep Guardiola has assembled a team of superstars as Manchester City have blown away every other team in their way. They sit top of the Premier League table, the only team to be unbeaten, and can anybody stop them? Are we looking at the brand new invincibles of the Premier League? Meanwhile, on the other side of Manchester, there's been some misery for Jose Mourinho. He's come under criticism for the way he's playing football. Is the criticism even fair when you look at the type of results he's getting? And are Manchester United still in the title race? And are they the team that if Manchester City slip up, their Manchester counterparts will snap up the chance to ascend into the top prize? And how about Chelsea and Tottenham, both having their problems but also showing some signs of great potential? Where do they both lie in the title race, and can they keep up with those Manchester Warriors going toe to toe at the top of the table? And what does it mean for Liverpool and Arsenal? Are they in the Premier League title race? Have they got any chance of sustaining the top flight and top prize in English football, or is it all about qualifying for the top European pedigree? All of this and much more, we're going to be discussing the Premier League title race as I bring you my second episode of the Premier League series that I like to call Living in the Prem. Hello guys, DJ Bagpuss here and welcome back to Living in the Prem. This is my Premier League series where we review all other Premier League clubs excluding Arsenal. Well, we'll be touching on Arsenal in this episode, but just my general thoughts and feelings to the Premier League, kind of in relation to my build up to the Premier League series which I did before the season started. Now, we did Living in the Prem. It came out on the first week of September. I just want to say thank you so much for the support that you showed on that one. Got over 100 views. It did really, really well. You guys really seem to enjoy it. And I said that I would be doing a Premier League kind of monthly review for kind of when we got to the end of each month in the Premier League. However, I didn't do one for September, nor did I do one for October. The reason why that is because of kind of the editing software that I had. I didn't have editing software that allowed me to edit over 10 minutes and to really do a full in-depth analysis of all of the teams and kind of do what we did before. The first Living in the Prem episode came in at over an hour and 15 minutes. So it just wasn't feasible. And I could have done, you know, the reviews for September and October, but it would have been rushed, and I don't think I would have been able to be, you know, kind of reviewing it properly after kind of 10 minutes. I don't think I'll be able to cram it into 10 minutes. So I decided to just not do September and October. We will be now, from now on, reviewing the Premier League at the end of every month. And as I kind of am making up a little bit and, you know, a bit of a make-up to you guys, I thought today I would discuss the Premier League title race. We're 2 months in now to the Premier League season, and we are starting to see a little bit of the start of the Premier League title race. We've got a top six that pretty much, I believe, will stay as the top six come the end of the season. So we've got a little bit of an inkling into how this season is going to pan out. And currently we're on an international break. This is going to be released the Friday before when the Premier League returns on Saturday. So I'm recording this on the 14th of November. This is going to be coming out the 17th of November, and the Premier League returns on the 18th of November. So we can preview kind of what's to come. We could talk about the title race as well, look at all top six teams, you know, break down in detail, analyse all of that good stuff, and kind of give my thoughts and feelings to the Premier League title race. Do excuse me as well, as you can tell, I've got a little bit of a cold and a blocked up nose and a cough, which is not ideal when you're trying to record videos. I was meant to record this yesterday. I was just so ill, and I couldn't actually get around to recording. So I do apologise that I've done a video once before where I've had a bit of a cold and a sore throat. So yeah, bear with me on that one. But you know, got to give the people what they want, and I'm here to do this video for you guys. When I put the suit jacket on, it means we're going to be doing Living in the Prem. So as you can see on the screen, this is the Premier League top six table. Manchester City storming away in first. They played 11 games, they've won 10, they've drawn 1, they have not lost a single game. They've got a goal difference of 31 points from a possible 33, which is absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. They have stormed the Premier League. Second is Manchester United. They've played 11 games as well. They've won 7, they've drawn 2, and they've lost 2. The 2 defeats they picked up against Huddersfield, shockingly enough, and then against Chelsea just before we went to an international break. They've got a goal difference of 18, and they are 8 points behind the leaders, Manchester City. Spurs are in third. They've played 11 games, won 7, drawn 2, lost 2 as well. They've got a goal difference of 18. They've got a goal difference of 13, sorry, and they're level on points with Manchester United on 23. They did lose to Chelsea and Manchester United, so the 2 games that they've lost have been games against the big boys, and both games were won. Against Chelsea, they lost 2-1, and against Manchester United, they lost 1-0. Chelsea have played 11 games, they've won 7, they've drawn 1, they have lost 3. They lost to Burnley on the opening day of the season, and then they lost to Manchester City, courtesy of Kevin De Bruyne, and also they lost to Crystal Palace, controversially enough, but a big win against Manchester United just before the international break has given them life. They're just a point behind Spurs and Manchester United, and they are 9 points behind the leaders. In 5th is Liverpool. They've played 11 games, they've won 5, drawn 4, lost 2, goal difference of 4. They're on 19 points, 12 points behind the leaders, Manchester City, but they're only 3 points off the top 4, 4 points behind Spurs and Manchester United. And my club, Arsenal, are also on 19 points. They're in 6th on goal difference. They've played 11, won 6, drawn 1, and we've lost 4. We've lost to Manchester City, we've lost to Stoke, we've lost to Watford, and we've lost to Liverpool. Goal difference is exactly the same as Liverpool, but Liverpool are ahead of us. I think they've scored more goals, but they've conceded, so the goal is exactly the same, but they've just scored more goals than we have. So, yeah, we are 3 points behind the top 4, 4 points behind Spurs, who we play on Saturday in the North London Derby, and we are 12 points behind Manchester City. So that is the top 6, and now I'm going to discuss and break down all of the top 6's title chances, starting with the leaders. It is Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's men, who are absolutely taking the Premier League by storm, not just in the way that they're playing, but the way that they're smashing all the records, how many goals they're scoring, and the fact that they're still unbeaten after 11 games. Now, many people argue, are people getting carried away with how good Manchester City are? You know, we're still very early into the season. You know, we've only played just over 10 games. Are we getting a little bit ahead of ourselves? Are we, you know, jumping before we've been pushed? Are we getting on the ship too quickly? Well, when you look at how Manchester City are playing and the records that they're smashing, there's no surprise why people are in such good praise and such in awe over them, because they absolutely are a splendid and spellbinding team right now. What Pep Guardiola's done is that he's brought world-class players, but he's also brought to the areas of where Manchester City were lacking. Like last season, there was so much kind of excitement and positivity and just kind of intrigue to Pep Guardiola, who's been sensational at Barcelona, at Bayern Munich. You know, you thought he was going to come to the Premier League and, you know, just take Manchester City by storm and take them to that next level. I think people expected them not just to win the Premier League every single season, but to comfortably, you know, be competing, you know, into the Champions League semi-final, final, and actually going on to win the Champions League. You know, that is what people expected Pep Guardiola to do. And last season, the major problem is, firstly, he was finding his feet. You know, he wasn't, you know, kind of, you know, used to the physicality, you know, the mental strength, and kind of just the mental, you know, the mental draining and physical nature and presence that is the Premier League in English football. And he had a defence that was just sloppy. You know, he had to play, you know, the likes of Kolarov and, you know, Sanya, you know, Di Michaelis, Zabaleta. You know, his defence was lacking. And what he's done now is, you know, the likes of bringing in, you know, even though Benjamin Mendy's out injured, but, you know, bringing in Kyle Walker, you know, Nicolas Otamendi looks revolutionary. John Stones looks a fabulous play, a great asset. He looks like a £50 million centre-back, and he looks like the kind of player that you would pay that kind of money for. And then, you know, with the likes of how strong Manchester, you know, Bernardo Silva is coming on as a substitute. You know, David Silva, you know, Sergio Aguero, Gabriel Jesus, Leroy Sané, Raheem Sterling. Look, Raheem Sterling looks the best he's ever looked, ever. Like, we always knew he was a great player, But what Pep Guardiola and the work that he's put in, and you know how he's working with Raheem Sterling, he looks a completely different player. Sané looks absolutely, you know, sensational. Aguero's now a record breaker, you know, scoring the most amount of goals for Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus can come on and give them something amazing. You know, his goal record, you know, and his conversion rate is absolutely stunning. But the main man right now is Kevin De Bruyne, who is literally ripping every single person and Premier League defence in his way. This man, and may I say, at Chelsea he had signs and he had the potential that he was going to, you know, transform into this exceptional player. But at times, you know, and I watched Chelsea very closely, he looked far too greedy. You know, he constantly wanted to, you know, try and win the game on his own, and it was at that time that he wasn't, I don't think, as good as he is now, and he just didn't have the quality to be able to, you know, take the ball from the halfway line and take it into, and then he goes and shoots and scores. You know, he never really had that about him at Chelsea, and I don't think he really was able to shine, and Jose Mourinho didn't really get the chemistry and kind of the flavours out of him, you know, something which Pep Guardiola was doing. And you look at the Kevin De Bruyne now, and Chelsea must be sitting there thinking, what on earth, you know, what kind of player did we let go? And it's kind of a recurring thing that Chelsea have, but he's absolutely sensational. He's a sensational midfielder. The goal he scored against Chelsea, the assist that he got when they played Burnley, you know, the goal and assist that he got against Stoke, like, he's unplayable. He's literally unplayable. He's in that elite category of Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Mbappe. You know, he's in that level. You have to put him up there. And, you know, kind of the firepower that he's got ahead of him, you know, with the likes of, you know, he's got David Silva one side, you know, he's got Fernandinho, you know, in that anchor spot, acting like it's a Kante or Bakayoko. You know, you've got Yaya Toure still coming to the equation. Company's injured. You know, he's got Aguero, Sané, Sterling, you know, Jesus ahead of him to assist and get those balls going. And it's just a team that oozes class from top to bottom. You know, you think at the start of the season, 6-0 against Watford, 7-2 against Stoke City. Their last 3 games, incidentally, they beat Burnley at home by 3-0. They beat West Brom by 3-0. That game in itself really could have been, you know, Man City could have won it 6-7-8 that day, and West Brom did get 2 lucky goals. And their most recent game was against Arsenal at the Etihad just before the international break. They beat Arsenal by 3-1. And, you know, if you follow my channel and you watch the Analyse an Arsenal video, and when I spoke about my thoughts to the Manchester City game, there was never really any doubt that, you know, for 1 second that Manchester City are a better club than us. They're the best team in the Premier League by a country mile. By a country mile, Man City are the best team in the Premier League. They're probably up there as the best team in the world. You know, their attacking power, the way that they pass the ball around, the way that they accelerate and put the ball into those attacking areas, the way that they exploit the wing channels, you know, the way that they just, you know, caress and play just majestic, beautiful football. They don't put a foot wrong. The only kind of negative thing I would say is that defensively at times they have a couple of shady moments. You know, against West Brom, you know, the goal that they conceded was just a bit of a poor one, you know, a rebound goal. You know, and they do concede, you know, a couple of hairy goals here and there. But, you know, this season they've got a world-class goalkeeper in Edison. You know, if you remember last season, you know, he had, you know, Claudio Bravo in goal. And let's just say Bravo was just not the greatest goalkeeper. Like, he really wasn't a decent goalkeeper whatsoever, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah, there was just something about him which, you know, he kept, you know, saving the shots back to the strikers. You know, he ended up giving teams rebounded goals. He kept, you know, dropping the ball in dangerous areas, allowing the opposition to come back and punish him for his mistakes. And he just had moments where he put his own team in jeopardy and gave the team a huge chance to get back into the game. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, he was clearly and most notably punished. And Pep Guardiola saw that and was like, you know, if you're going to win the Premier League, if you're going to win the Champions League, you need to have a world-class goalkeeper. And Edison, there's a couple of things that Edison does that looks a little bit kind of questionable, but all in all, I'd say Edison is a fantastic goalkeeper. I mean, you know, what I find really interesting about Manchester City is the fact that they, you know, yes, they concede 2 or 3 goals, but they say, however many goals you score, we're going to score more than you. And it is as simple as that. And that is true. That is literally what Manchester City are doing right now. You know, West Brom score 2 goals, we score 3. Stoke score 2 goals, you know, we score 7. You know, at 2-0 against Arsenal, you know, Lacazette pulls one back, and Man City just like, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. Yes, the goal was offside, and yes, it shouldn't have been given, but they just turn on through. You know, you get one goal back, we'll score again, and it's as simple as that. And they are absolutely, you know, sensational. And they've not just played little teams right now. They've beaten Arsenal by 3-1. They've beaten Chelsea by 1-0. And that Chelsea game was a strange one, because even though it was 1-0, Manchester City battered the champions from start to finish. They absolutely battered them. It could have been 5 or 6 that day, and it really should have been 5 or 6. You know, they outmuscled the champions. They outsmarted them, outwitted them, outplayed them, and 1-0 was very, very favourable. In fact, it was probably the most favourable scoreline, and looked better on Chelsea 100%, because that game really should have ended, you know, 5-6 goals to Manchester City. They got 5 goals against Liverpool. You know, they have just been super, absolutely super. Yes, they've got to play Manchester United and Tottenham, but, you know, they've got a fantastic squad ahead of them. You know, they've got an 8-point lead on Manchester United. They've got a 9-point lead on Chelsea. They've got a 12-point lead on Liverpool and Arsenal. If they don't win the league from this position, it will be disastrous. I can't see Manchester City slipping up. You know, do I think they're going to be invincible? No. And there's been a lot of talk about this, and there's been a lot of speculation and dialogue created around whether they're going to, you know, match and beat Arsenal's Invincibles. I don't necessarily think, firstly, I don't want them to be, you know, go invincible, because I'd love that to be, you know, a sainted kind of record that is held by Arsenal. You know, I don't want anyone else to take that away from the Gunners. I want that to be special, because it's a sacred record that only Arsenal, the only team in the Premier League history to go an entire season unbeaten. So I do think Manchester City will slip up at one point or another, because, you know, when Arsenal went invincible, when this season they won it, there was only really Manchester United as the major team standing in their way. And now you've got Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, but you've also got the likes of these lesser teams that on their day could be absolutely anyone. You know, fortunate, you could say, that they beat West Brom, even though they should have easily won that game by 5 goals, 6 goals. But had West Brom scored, they had a big chance in kind of 15 minutes before half-time at 3-2. If they made that 3-3, it could have been a very, very different story and a very, very different affair. So, do I think that they're going to go unbeaten? No. Do I think that they have the potential and the chance to go unbeaten? 100%. They have got the best squad in the Premier League. Defensively, they're solid. You know, they've got a midfield of power, presence, of skill. They've got one of the best playmakers in the world in Kevin De Bruyne. And they've got an attacking quartet of just oozing class in the likes of Sané, Sterling, Aguero and Gabriel Jesus. What's going to be interesting if they get a major injury to De Bruyne or, you know, Aguero or Gabriel Jesus, but I still think they've got enough quality in that team to, you know, go and just sustain a really healthy title challenge, and probably a very easy title challenge is what I think Manchester City will get at the end of the day. You know, at the start of the season, I said Manchester United were going to win the Premier League title. However, it's been quite apparent that I definitely will change my mind and say Manchester City will easily win it. In terms of their next 3 games, they've got Leicester away, Huddersfield away, Southampton at home. That should be 9 comfortable points easily. Huddersfield away, I can't see anything other. Even though Huddersfield did beat Manchester United, Manchester City are a better team than them, and they've just got more quality, and I see that to be an easy game. Leicester away, Leicester have got their own problems. We, you know, still kind of, you know, searching for a manager, even though they've got an assistant manager running in, but I don't think he's going to be there for much longer. And Southampton at home, I mean, Southampton are a decent side. They can cause problems against some of the bigger teams in the past, but again, I can't see any other team beating Manchester City at the minute. I think what the biggest game is going to be is the Manchester derby. That's going to be Manchester City's biggest test to come, and their next big target. You know, they've got Spurs coming up as well, but they play Manchester United in the Manchester derby very, very soon, and that is going to be their next big test. If they can come through that with a win and, you know, pick up 9 points in their next 3 games against Leicester, Huddersfield and Southampton incidentally, then I think that they are going to easily win the Premier League. And I think for Manchester City, for Pep Guardiola, you'll be sitting there and thinking, if I can get to like January, early February, still have an 8, 9, 10 point gap, then I think it would be, you know, you could easily say that Manchester City are going to go ahead and win the Premier League title. It's still early days, anyone can still win it, but in my heart of heart, my head says that any of these teams, any of these top 6 have a realistic chance of winning the Premier League. But overall, all in all, I believe that Manchester City are going to walk away at the end of the season with the Premier League trophy and playing the best football. I think they're going to smash so many records. I think they're going to score so many goals, and I think they're going to get to either the semi-finals or the final of the Champions League. I think if you're a Manchester City fan, things are looking very, very good for you. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that. I think they're a great team, and it's a real pleasure and privilege from a neutral point of view to watch and see Manchester City play football, because they're just an absolute privilege to watch. They ooze class from top to bottom. They have strength, power. The only negative I'd say is defensively. At times they concede a few sloppy and stupid goals here and there, but you can't take anything away from the way that they play, and they are absolutely exceptional. So that's Manchester City's title chances. I think that not only are they the favourites, I think they are going to win the Premier League, but there are still 5 teams that are still having a chance and a shot of winning this. And Manchester City's closest title rivals are the side on the other side of the road, and that is Manchester United.
Oh, yes! Welcome!
My first Living in the Prem episode that I did in September, I gave huge praise and acclaim to Manchester United and for Jose Mourinho for not just the transfer window, the players that he acquired in the summer transfer window, but their incredible start to the season, the way that they were playing, and just overall the start that Manchester United and Jose Mourinho made in the Premier League. I really commended them well in that first episode of Living in the Prem. And as I said, they are, at the start of the season, they were my title favourites. I truly believe that they were going to go on and win the Premier League title. But since then, things have not been as rosy for Manchester United, and they've come under some criticism. Jose Mourinho, in particular, has come under criticism for the way that Manchester United are playing, their style of football, their brand of football, and how they're playing in the big games against the big teams. And all of the things that they've been doing has been heavily criticised. And you can understand it when you've got Manchester City blowing away teams, beating Liverpool 5-0, and then you've got Manchester United holding out for a 0-0 draw. You can understand why there is so much criticism, and just often, and more importantly, kind of negative kind of quotes being thrown and labelled to Jose Mourinho, because all in all, most importantly, a lot of people don't enjoy his style of football. And remember, Jose Mourinho has always been like this. He's always been that kind of manager. Whatever he does, he's a big game thinker. He knows how to win these big games and often win big trophies. If you remember at Chelsea, in that second half of his title winning season, 2014-15, he played very negative, very static football. But in the end, it gets results. And that, to me, is why I think the criticism is slightly unfair, because at the end of the day, it's getting results. Jose Mourinho is getting results with Manchester United. Yes, he's lost 2 games, but he's won 7 and he's drawn 2 out of 11 games. That is actually very, very good. That is strong, solid top 4 and, title-winning form. If you take Manchester City out of the equation, Manchester United are right in there, and they're still right in here now. And even some of the big games, I don't necessarily believe that they've been playing incredibly static and incredibly boring. I do think that at times Manchester United, with all the attacking firepower that they've got ahead of them, with the likes of Mkhitaryan, Rashford, Martial, Romelu Lukaku, has been exceptional, but it's sort of slowed down in terms of his, goals that he's been scoring recently. He absolutely lit up the Premier League in the first few weeks of the season. He's kind of dissipated from there, I do think at times Manchester United play it far too safe, but they are getting results. And, after the game at Old Trafford, which was against Manchester United Liverpool, which was a couple of weeks ago, it finished 0-0, and I was sort of in the minority because I watched it as a neutral, and I didn't think it was as a bad game as many people point out. I saw so many things on Twitter and you guys saying that the game was absolutely awful, boring, there was nothing happened in the game. And, I kind of compared it to the game last season played at Old Trafford between Manchester United and Liverpool, which ended the same scoreline. And it was an absolutely woeful game. It was such a boring Monday night football game. And in the end, there was only a couple of chances here and there. And in the game a couple of weeks ago at Old Trafford, there were chances to win the game. Liverpool went for it, and credit to them. They went to Old Trafford and they weren't afraid. Manchester United stifled it sat back, defended, parked 10 behind the ball, and had a couple of chances themselves. You know, Lukaku really didn't get involved, and his hold-up play that day wasn't particularly good. But it wasn't really as bad as what I thought. You know, there were a couple of exciting moments. It wasn't great, but in the end, it was a solid point that Jose Mourinho got out of the game. And the only other game that Manchester United won was against Stoke, which I said at the end of Living in the Prem in my first episode. I said that was going to be the game that was going to be their biggest test, and in the end, they drew it 2-2. And that game was on the 15th of September. But against Chelsea, just before the international break, I have to say Manchester United played really, really well, and I think were quite unlucky not to get something out of the game on bonfire night. You know, they attacked Chelsea really well. It was a very end-to-end game. They created a lot of chances. Chelsea had some of the better chances, and in there you could argue that, you know, on a different day, you know, maybe Manchester United could have nicked something with Martial or got something with Lukaku. You know, but they played attacking football. They went for it. They didn't hold back. They didn't sit back. They didn't go for a Mourinho, you know, masterclass, or, you know, they didn't go for like just sitting back and defending and trying to hold on to what they've got. You know, in the end, they got, you know, they went for the game, and in the end, they lost it to an absolutely brilliant header by Morata. But, you know, there were signs that Mourinho's intent was to stop all this negative press going, you know, towards him. And he's quite a very moody and negative manager at the minute. You know, he never seems to be happy whatsoever. But there has been moments which I think where Manchester United could have improved. You know, against Chelsea, they need to take all their chances. And I do agree, you know, Romelu Lukaku is a fantastic striker. You know, one of the best strikers, you know, in the Premier League. But in the big games, he hasn't done anything. He had a great chance to score against Liverpool. He also had a really good chance against Chelsea, which he missed. And I just think his hold-up play needs to work on that. And he also needs to work with linking and the chemistry that he has with, you know, Martial and Mkhitaryan. You know, they need to work on gelling together and creating chances, because as a front three, your front three have got to, you know, adapt. They've got to link, they've got to intertwine, they've got to, you know, mesh and gel together quite beautifully. And there's been times where they've struggled with that. And, you know, the game that Manchester United lost against Huddersfield, which was a big shock on the cards, and that was the first real time where people were like, whoa, what's happened? Manchester United lost to Huddersfield. They were incredibly unlucky. You know, again, it was a horrible game, you know, a horrible day. You know, the weather was absolutely atrocious. I'm not becoming tired, that's not an excuse. But, you know, they had so many chances, and Huddersfield played incredibly well, the best that Huddersfield have played all season. And it's just one of those days where you look back and you have those games in the Premier League where things just don't go your way. You know, Manchester United again had moments where they were very negative, you know, very static, not really, you know, playing that exciting, attractive football that we've come to know from Manchester United, you know, from the Alex Ferguson days. But they had chances to easily equalise and get a draw out of the game at the very minimum. So I don't take too much away from that. I think what Manchester United and their biggest problem that they have found, absolutely their biggest problem, has been the loss of Paul Pogba. Losing Paul Pogba has caused Manchester United problems. It means that they have to be a bit more defensively shaped. They don't have that playmaker like a De Bruyne that can set things in motion. You know, you saw when Pogba was in the team how he interconnected with Lukaku. You know, he had Matic in behind protecting him, you know, protecting that back foot. It meant Pogba could get further field. And once he's in that, you know, attacking option into the final third, he is one of the most deadliest players in the world. You know, you think of how many goals that him and Lukaku scored, the way that they interconnected. Pogba can lay into Martial, into Rashford, into Mkhitaryan, and help Lukaku get some more goals. And in the big games, what's going to be interesting, when Pogba and Lukaku are back against a big team, are we going to see a difference? Are we going to see a change? Are we going to see something which is going to start to gel and excite the Manchester United fans? So I don't think Manchester United necessarily are in a bad situation. They need to get Pogba back, because at the minute, you know, they're relying on, you know, Matic to start things. He's the anchor. He's protecting the back four. You know, they've got Fellaini, Herrera. You know, these are the type of players that are not playmakers. You know, they're just, you know, either all-rounding midfielders or defensively shaped midfielders. They don't have that playmaker. Yes, Juan Mata. But again, Juan Mata's not really hit the heights and dazzled this season. He was actually very good for Manchester United last season, Juan Mata, but he hasn't really hit the heights. I don't think Mourinho's really given him a chance to do that. So there's negative and positives of Manchester United, but I don't think it's as doom and gloom as people are making out. I don't think it's as bad as what the Manchester United fans say. All in all, they want to see exciting, attractive football. They want to get back to the days of Sir Alex Ferguson. But you think of it, Jose Mourinho's won you the Europa League, he's won you the Community Shield, you know, he is giving you, you know, the likes of Romelu Lukaku, he's brought great players to Manchester United like Matic, you know, and he's in a title race. Last season at this stage, Manchester United weren't in the title race, so he's going about it the right way. There's a lot of reports that he actually won't be at Manchester United for much longer. It looks like, you know, PSG have come calling, but right now they're in a good position, Manchester United. Again, also, I think they will do well in the Champions League. Mourinho's got that big game mentality. He knows how to win the big games and he knows how to get the big results. So that will go in Manchester United's favour. Do I believe and do I think that they can get past Manchester City? No, I don't think any team will get past Manchester City. But if Manchester City don't win this, and I'm contradicting myself, and I know I'm contradicting myself, but if Manchester City don't win the Premier League, I think Manchester United will win it. I only think it will be one of the Manchester clubs for sure. So they're in a good position there. 8 points behind Manchester City. Their next 3 games, they've got Newcastle at home, Brighton at home, Watford away. Again, those are 3 games that they should comfortably win. However, I believe Newcastle at home and Watford away are going to be tricky. Brighton at home, I think, is a comfortable 3 points in the bag. I comfortably think they're going to win that game easily. But Newcastle at home, I'm not too sure about that. I think Newcastle at home is one of those games where Newcastle could kind of get something out of the game. You know, Newcastle have got Rafa Benitez, who can get results, who can get wins, who knows how to play against the big boys, and I think Newcastle could cause a couple of problems. I do think Manchester United will win that game, but I think it'll be a very, very close affair, and I think Newcastle could nick something out of it. Brighton home, I think it's an absolute cert. I think they would comfortably get 3 points. And Watford away, we've seen what Watford can do against Arsenal. We've seen what they can do against Chelsea. They were very unlucky to lose that game in the manner that they did. Watford should have been, 3-1 up at one stage against Chelsea. They beat Arsenal, obviously, 2-1. So I kind of feel like Watford could cause some problems. But I think Manchester United will narrowly get a result, just like I think they will against Newcastle. But Newcastle and Watford will make life very difficult for themselves. Brighton, I can't see it. I can't see it, particularly at Old Trafford. I don't. If it was away, at the Amex Stadium, then maybe, potentially they could have get something out of the game. But I think at this particular moment, I don't necessarily believe that at Old Trafford, Brighton don't really have a chance. But those next 3 games are very, very good fixtures for Manchester United. They won't be easy games, but they should be games that Manchester United look to get 9 points out of. That will take them to 32. And if Manchester City keep winning, they're still going to be 8 points behind them. So it is very going to be a big game. The biggest game, they need to keep pace on Manchester City. And once they need to be able to be 8, 7, 6, they need to be no more than, 8 points behind them when we get to that Manchester derby. Because that Manchester derby is going to be absolutely massive. If Manchester United are only 8, 7 points behind Man City and they win, they close the gap to 4 points, they can start putting pressure on Pep Guardiola's men. If they are 10 points, 12 points behind them, and Manchester City win that Manchester derby, the title's done. Simply, hard and simple. Manchester United have got to keep winning. They've got to stay on Manchester City's coattails, and if they do that, they will have a great chance to win the Premier League if and only if Manchester City slip up. So I think things are fairly decent for Manchester United at this particular minute. They're not great. Manchester United are not in a fantastic position right now, but they're not doing bad at the minute. They are at the minute, they're steady. They've had a couple of step ups. They're not playing great football, but they are getting results, and that is the main thing. So that's Manchester United's title chances. And let's talk now about third place and talk about my favourite team, Tottenham Hotspur, and their title chances.
As in full cry here, Lamella!
Tottenham. Oh, Spurs. I think it's fair to say that myself and Spurs are not the best of friends, but that doesn't mean that they don't deserve the accolades and commendance of how they're performing. Because right now, Spurs are in a very promising and a very good position. I'm never ever going to be biased, towards Spurs just because I'm an Arsenal fan. I will be fair. I will be, as honest as I can. And, the honest truth is that Spurs are in a very, very good position and are a very good side, at this particular moment. And they have been for the last couple of seasons. The fact, and, Mauricio Pochettino coming into the side, the fact remains that he's turned Spurs into a side that has always, fallen at the final hurdle, and that is still being kind of a recurring theme. Spurs really should have had a Premier League title in their bag. They should have won it a couple of seasons ago. They could have won it last season. So they've always had and been in positions where they've had the chance to win it and always fallen down at the final hurdle. But, when you think of Spurs back in the day, they always, struggled to even get into the top four, let alone compete for the Premier League title. So what Mauricio Pochettino has done, and what he's been able to achieve coming into Spurs is very, very commendable. You've got to give him high praise and accolades for that. Right now, Spurs are third, level on points with Manchester United, 8 points behind Manchester City. As I said, they've won 7 games, drawn 2, lost 2. They're basically in the exact same position of Manchester United. They just have a less superior goal difference to them. And for me, Spurs are in a very good position, are playing really well. But I'm still not totally convinced by them. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm an Arsenal fan and I want Spurs to foul and I don't like Spurs. I'm saying that generally with wholehearted that I don't, I'm not totally convinced by them yet. And the reason why is that they have been slightly inconsistent for me. We knew that going to Wembley, I said in my build-up to the Premier League series that was going to be Spurs' downfall. They've never ever been able to do well at Wembley. Right at the start of the season, it looked like it was Wembley woe for Tottenham. The fact that they've drawn at home to Swansea. They lost to Chelsea. But they beat Liverpool by 4 goals to 1 at Wembley in a superb performance, and probably Spurs' best kind of, result and performance of the season. That was a 10 out of 10 for them. They also have just beaten Crystal Palace by a goal to 0 at Wembley. So, they are showing signs that, the Wembley woe is behind them, but they've still been inconsistent. And, the 2 games that Spurs have lost have been to Manchester United away and Chelsea at home. You can't really be too upset when you lose to the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United. And those 2 games, when you look on reflection, could have gone either way for Spurs. Like, they could have won the game or lost the game. They could have gone 50-50. The fact remains that Marcos Alonso turned up for them and he was sheer class in the Chelsea game just before the international break. And, he absolutely just won the game for Chelsea on his own with that free kick and that great goal after Spurs equalised with the Batshuayi own goal. And against Manchester United, again, as I said earlier when I was speaking about Manchester United, that was the type of game that could have gone 50-50. Spurs had a couple of decent chances. Manchester United also had a couple of decent chances, and they took that one chance right at the end of the game and won the game most crucially. And, so both the games that Spurs have lost this season could have gone either way. But the things that slightly trouble me with Spurs is the fact that, the draws that they've picked up, Spurs have been in the position where they've drawn 2 games and, those were against, the lesser teams and teams that you would expect, and most notably they should have got points on, so they've dropped points at home where they really should have won the game and won the game well. But the greatness is, the way that they played against Liverpool, the strength, the power, the position that they have, how they just dismantled Liverpool comfortably and effortlessly, and how they executed. That was absolutely stunning to watch. And in the Champions League against Real Madrid, beating Real Madrid, who are the European champions, by 3 goals to 1, is fabulous. And, not many English sides beat Real Madrid, and Spurs really did a great job on them. Absolutely a great job on them. They drew to them in the first leg in the group stage of the Champions League. So, they played absolutely brilliantly. They're safely and comfortably through to the last 16 of the Champions League. And, that is incredible. Like, even Real Madrid are having a whole host of problems and they're not in the best position right now. To beat Real Madrid, even when they're not in their best form, is still commendable because these are the European champions. They've won the Champions League back-to-back in the last 2 seasons. The fact of the remains that if you can beat them, and they still have Ronaldo, even though they had a whole host of injuries, they had some of their big key players in the side, and Spurs dismantled them comfortably and effortlessly at the end. That was absolutely brilliant. Harry Kane is in the form of his life, and if Spurs can keep hold of Harry Kane, that it will only be a matter of time before they actually end up winning the Premier League. They haven't won the Premier League since 1961, which is absolutely incredible. And they've got Harry Kane, who is just banging in goals left, right and centre. He's in the form of his life after the kind of August drought that constantly and keeps seeming to have. September is just a silky September for Harry Kane, really. He's absolutely incredible, and he's just banging in goals. You've got Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, who has been incredible, came off the bench and scored the only goal for Crystal Palace. He's been absolutely exceptional for them. The likes of Eric Dyer, Kieran Trippier. The loss of Kyle Walker really hasn't caused them much grief necessarily. They've got a world-class goalkeeper in Hugo Lloris. And they've just got strength and power from top to bottom, and they've got a squad full of pace, power, precision, but they've got a lot of youth, and you've really got to commend and praise Mauricio Pochettino for that, because the fact is that he's brought in young players and they're gelling, and he's turned young players into these kind of world-class players is absolutely brilliant. He's done an amazing job at Spurs to not just take them from just being outside of the Champions League and not really competing. He's taken them to top Premier League title contenders, and they've been, in the 15-16 season, they did finish third. Last season, they finished runners-up. They are going and they are getting better and better every single season, and that is absolutely brilliant to see. Last season, they were knocked out of the Champions League at the group stages. They're now into the last 16, and they have got a genuine chance of winning the Premier League title. The only thing that is going to hinder on their title chances, firstly, can they catch Manchester City? Can they keep up with Manchester City? If they can't, it's Manchester City's title anyway. But if they can keep up with Manchester City, they've got to keep Harry Kane fit, because they are a different team without Harry Kane. Yes, they've got the likes of Dele Alli, Heung-min Son. They've got just a sheer number of attacking players to bring up, but they won't give you what Harry Kane gives you. And what Harry Kane gives you is he gives you just he can win a game for Spurs on his own. Generally, he's absolutely a sensational player, but I do feel like Spurs are a different team without him. But they need to keep Harry Kane fit, and they need to get this consistent run going. And when it really matters, when they've got to win games, when it's must-win games, they need to find a way of getting wins when the game is not going their way. Spurs can beat anyone, and if they get a couple of early goals, if they start playing their swagger and passing around and get in the ball into those attacking areas, down the channels, and start gelling and meshing well, then they can beat absolutely anybody. But it's if they go a goal down. We've seen it against Manchester United. Against Chelsea, they showed character when they went a goal down, pulled it back to 1-1, and then instantly conceded. They need to show a bit more character and fight. I know that's saying a lot coming from an Arsenal fan, but those are the sort of things that you need that are going to take you from being title contenders to title winners, and that's exactly what they need. In terms of Spurs' next 3 fixtures, they've got Arsenal in the North London derby on Saturday. They've got West Brom at home and Leicester away. And the North London derby is a crucial game, not just for Arsenal, but for Tottenham Hotspur. Because at the minute, if Arsenal win, they will go just into a point behind Tottenham Hotspur. And Manchester City will have the chance to potentially go 11 points clear of Tottenham Hotspur. All but all, basically ending Tottenham's title chances, I believe. Spurs win. They'll put pressure on Manchester City. They will close the gap to 5 points behind Manchester City, with Manchester United playing against Newcastle later that day. It will surely end Arsenal's title chance and even potentially starting to put an impact on their Champions League hopes. This is a must-win game. A draw for me is not good enough now. I said I'd take 4 points out of these next 2 games from an Arsenal perspective. But we've lost Manchester City. We have got to win this North London derby. We've got to show everybody is right in Arsenal for saying Arsenal have not got a hope nil chance of winning it. Spurs are a better team than us at this current moment. They have got a better squad than us. They play better football, and they're just a better team than us generally. But we've got to win this game. We've got to get 3 points out of this game. There's no second bar. A draw wouldn't be good enough. We have to win this game. We have to win it. We haven't beaten Spurs for the last couple of seasons. The last 6 games, we haven't been able to beat them. We've drawn, I think, 4 and lost 2. So Spurs have got a decent record against us. It's at the Emirates. Spurs also need to win. If they're going to have any chance of winning this title, they've got to win. And if we've got any chance of keeping on the top 4 and, the Champions League coattails, and even maybe having a slight outside chance to win the Premier League title, we've got to win this game. It's as simple as that. That is a big, big game. For the games against West Brom at home and Leicester away, I think Spurs should comfortably pick up 6 points out of 6. for that. West Brom at home, even though it's at Wembley, Tony Pulis is a great manager. He will cause problems for Spurs, but I think they will get away with it. Leicester at the King Power. Again, I think Spurs will just have too much for Leicester, and I don't think they'll be able to keep Spurs quiet for 90 minutes. Again, I think all three of those games will be quite close and even games. Hopefully, I hope Spurs pick up 6 points, not 9, because I want us to win this North London derby. But that is a crucial game, and that is where we're really going to see where this Arsenal team are, and also notably where this Tottenham Hotspur team are. We're going to see, are they really true top title contenders? Can they keep up with Manchester City? Can they actually get a big result against the big team? The only side that they've managed to win is Liverpool, where they beat them 4-1. They've lost Manchester United. They need to beat Arsenal, and we also need to beat Tottenham Hotspur. But yeah, I'm still not convinced by them, but I do think they've generally got a chance to win the Premier League title. But this next North London derby game is absolutely pivotal and crucial to their season. Now, let's discuss over in West London, Stamford Bridge. We're talking Chelsea and their title chances.
Progress for a winner here. And here's Pedro to give Chelsea a flying start.
Chelsea, it's been a strange season for Chelsea, really. Just when you think that things are going well for them, there always seems to be another negative thing that's kind of hindering and impacting on their season. And that is very, very strange for me. Chelsea are not in a bad position, right? They are in a worse position where they were this time last season. They were top of the Premier League table, and they were starting on that incredible 13-game unbeaten run. But this season, things have just not been going right for Chelsea. We said at the start of the season, and in the first episode, Living in the Prem, I said how, Conte's been under incredible pressure. He looks moody. He looks negative, and things are just not good at Chelsea. Obviously, losing to Burnley on the opening day of the season. Since then, they beat Spurs by 2-1. They actually started to win games, quite well. They have lost 3 games already this season. They lost to Burnley, they lost to Crystal Palace, and they also lost to Manchester City. Despite losing those games, and the one game that they have drawn was against Arsenal, but they have won 7 games this season, so they are showing, fight and character, the character of fight that got them the Premier League title last year after losing back-to-back games. They still are showing that, and they still have got something about them, but things have not been good. Like in the Champions League, they lost to Roma by 3-0. They were absolutely dismantled, dispatched. They were beaten comfortably by a decent Roma side. They also gave away a 2-goal lead against Roma in the home tie at Stamford Bridge to draw the game 3 at the end of the day. So I don't really know what is going on. There's been a lot of negative press right from the minute Chelsea won the Premier League title last season. You've got Antonio Conte unhappy with the kind of signings that he got. He didn't acquire his summer transfer targets. He got Morata, he got Bakayoko, but there wasn't really kind of anything to excite Chelsea fans. They then lost to Burnley on the opening day of the season, and it started to become quite a toxic environment. Obviously, they brought in Danny Drinkwater, a good signing, but not, your first choice signing, and he's just basically, a sporadic player that is just coming on here and there. The loss of Kante recently over the last couple of weeks has impacted on Chelsea absolutely hugely. When they haven't got N'Golo Kante, they are a completely different kettle of fish, and it's so surprising how N'Golo Kante wasn't in the best FIFA awards. He's not been in the team of the year for the last couple of years. He won the Premier League title with Leicester, and he went to Chelsea and won the Premier League title with them, and he's very, very underrated. I think he's one of the best midfielders in the world right now, without a shadow of doubt. And you saw him, he came back to the Manchester United game just before the international break, and Chelsea won the game and looked so much better with N'Golo Kante in the side. There's all this business currently with David Luiz. I don't know what he's done or what he's meant to, was left out the side against Manchester United, and he's been a fantastic centre-back since returning to Chelsea. He looks much more mature. He's not making silly mistakes. He's not being irrational, which he was when, during his first spell at Chelsea. So I don't really know what is going on with Chelsea right now. There's been, there's so much negativity at Chelsea. Conte looks under pressure, but then they're still showing the spirit and character. I don't really know what is going on. Their last 3 results, obviously, they beat Manchester United by 1-0. They beat Bournemouth by 1-0, and they beat Watford by 4-2. The Watford game was an interesting one because Watford had just beaten Arsenal. They went into that game, Chelsea went 1-0, an absolute screamer goal from Pedro. And then Watford equalised before half-time. Then Watford go 2-1 up and could have gone 4-1 up. It was a 15-minute spell where they had 3 or 4 really good chances, and they could have been 4-1 up. And then Chelsea bring on Batshuayi, he gets 2 goals, and in the end Chelsea get another goal from Aspilicueta, and they win the game 4-2 at the end. Against Bournemouth, it was a poor game, really. I didn't actually watch the game, but I saw the highlights. Chelsea scored a ridiculous goal by Eden Hazard. They had a couple of chances, but Bournemouth also had a couple of chances themselves. And again, it's just one of those games where, you know, you get a 1-0 win, you haven't played great, but you've got the job done in the end. And against Manchester United, again, it was a very neutral game. You know, Chelsea had chances, Manchester United had chances. Both teams went for it. But that little bit of quality, that little bit of magic from Morata, and also the sheer quality and class that you have on N'Golo Kante, you know, protecting Chelsea's back three, you know, making tackles. He had a very, very good game, and Chelsea get the win as well. But, you know, Chelsea looks so inconsistent right now, and they're in a position where things are not good at Chelsea Football Club, but yet they're still getting results. You know, they're still getting the right results. You know, they need, I think, one more win to qualify for the last 16. They're into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. You know, so they are in a good position right now. They've got a chance if the other teams slip up and they can accelerate. You know, Chelsea, you know, last season after losing 2 games were kind of 5-6 points off the top, went on a 13-game winning run to win the Premier League title. So you can never write Chelsea off. You know, they're such a super club. And in fact, what Roman Abramovich has done over these last kind of 10 years has been absolutely extraordinary. They're probably the best English club right now in terms of the conversion rate for, you know, trophies won. They've been absolutely exceptional. But I'm not, again, convinced by them. I just don't understand where all this negativity is coming from. And I don't really feel and believe that the negativity that they're getting is actually fair. I think that, you know, people are just reading way too into this, and they're just seeing Chelsea in a completely different way. And Antonio Conte being under pressure, and people saying that potentially he's going to walk from Chelsea is absolute farce. You know, Chelsea are not kind of in 10th, you know, under Mourinho 2 seasons ago, where, you know, they lost 9 games before, you know, Christmas. You know, they were in the relegation zone. They weren't doing well. You know, they had to make a change. They had to get rid of Mourinho. And the negative kind of press that he was taking to Chelsea was unfair and was ridiculous. Antonio Conte's not doing that. But he does look really kind of depressed. You look at his press conferences. You look at, you know, the way that he's addressing, you know, the journalists and the paparazzi. You know, he does look a deflated and defeated man, and he shouldn't. You know, Chelsea are in a good position. You know, they are in the title race, and they've got 2 fairly easy games, but they've got a really tough game. Their next 3 fixtures, they've got West Brom away, Liverpool away, Swansea at home. West Brom away is a tough game. Tony Pulis is a very, very good manager. West Brom are a tough team to break down at the Hawthorns. You know, they've got, you know, great physical players. They will cause Chelsea problems. I think they will win that game. The big game is Liverpool away at Anfield. Liverpool over recent seasons have got a good record against Chelsea. They've beaten them twice. They've drawn a couple of times. I think Liverpool haven't beaten against Chelsea in the last 5 games. Again, you know, Chelsea haven't beaten Liverpool, I think, since the 14-15 title winning season of Jose Mourinho. So it's been a while since Liverpool have lost to Chelsea. That's going to be a big game. You know, Liverpool 3 points off of Chelsea. Depending if Liverpool win their next game before the game against Anfield, it could be 3 points, it could be 6 points. Chelsea could potentially, if Liverpool lose their next game, open up a 9-point gap on them. But that is going to be a crucial game for them. And Chelsea against the big boys, they've drawn to Arsenal, they've beaten Spurs, they've beaten Manchester United, losing to Manchester City. And again, that game, they should have lost 5 or 6-0. They should have got a mauling that day. They were absolutely outclassed, outfought from top to bottom. But at the end of the day, 1-0 was favourable for them, and, you know, that was the only time that they looked poor against, you know, a top side. Against Arsenal, they should have lost as well, but it was an even game. Both teams played well, but, you know, it was just one of those games which could have gone 50-50. Arsenal did take the chances, neither did Chelsea, to be fair. So I think a point was actually fair, and it was, I think, a better point for Arsenal than it was for Chelsea. But then they've got Swansea at home, and that should be a home banger. They should easily and comfortably beat Swansea, but they just, I don't understand, and I feel like the negative press that Chelsea are getting is unfair, and I do feel like it's not really warranted on Chelsea. You know, they're not in a perilous position. You know, they have lost 3 games this season, but they lost, you know, this time last season they also had lost 3 games. So they're in the exact same position that they were last season. Now the only difference is that they went on a mad winning run, and they've got to do that now if they have any sort of chance of winning the Premier League title. But again, I think Antonio Conte will do more successful in the Champions League than the Premier League. But I think Chelsea right now, at this stage, their main priority is to go for Champions League football. But they are still outside contenders for the title race. And, you know, I think where the table is now is where it's going to finish. I think Manchester United, Spurs have got a better chance of winning the Premier League. But Chelsea, if they can get on a winning run, if they can accelerate, if they can go on a mad winning streak like they did last season, and this team is capable of doing so, then they've got a great chance with the title. What I find really baffling is that Chelsea, they win the title and then they have a negative season right the way after. There's only one season where Jose Mourinho won the Premier League title with Chelsea back-to-back, but after Mourinho won the Premier League title, there was all that negativity, the business with the doctor, all of this kind of negative about, subbing players off, selling players, and after winning the title this season, they sell Man United to a main title rival. Antonio Conte's biting back at the journalist. He looks stressed. He looks a defeated man. And it's bizarre how, Chelsea are a great club, and you look at the amount of trophies that they've won, the amount of managers that they've gone through, and keeping up this, conversion rate of winning all the big trophies is absolutely, spellbinding. It's startling. But when you look at them, it's just like, it's so weird how they win the title, they have an amazing season, and the following season they have all of this negativity, they have all of this kind of small problems, and it's not really, needed. It's not really helping anyone. The business of David Luiz needs to be sorted out. I think he's actually going to go in January. So, Chelsea are kind of in a mixed bag right now, but they are outside contenders for the Premier League title, and these next 3 games are going to be interesting to see where they go and how they respond after the international break. They had a bit of a dodgy period, between, Halloween, bonfire night, but they got a big win against Manchester United. They need to use that as a basis to go on a winning run right now. Chelsea sitting 4th, Liverpool sitting 5th, and now we're going to discuss their title chances.
Coutinho! Liverpool lead again!
Now, Liverpool have had a mixed season. Going forward, they are absolutely stunning. I think they're probably one of the, along with Manchester City, after Manchester City, it is Liverpool who I love to watch as a neutral, because their attacking football is absolutely superb. Mohamed Salah, Mane, Firmino, Coutinho, Lallana, they have got some incredible players. Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's now moved to Liverpool, who, despite having a tricky start, is looking very, very solid as a Liverpool player, which is, always fun to see. A former Arsenal player who left Arsenal to join a club who he thinks is better than Arsenal right now. So cheers for that, Ox. Really appreciate that. But Liverpool are playing some exceptional football. However, Liverpool's biggest problem, and we spoke about this before on the first Living in the Prem, is their defence. And they've always had defensive problems and not being strong enough at the back to defend. Their goal difference is 4. They've only scored 4 more goals than they've conceded. To go for the Premier League title, you need to be solid and strong at the back. The only exception that is, and Manchester City could fall into this a little bit, if you can outscore a ridiculous amount of goals, then your opposition, you can still win the league. But we saw it when Liverpool came close to winning it in 2013-14. They scored, 50 plus goals. They scored a huge amount of goals, but they also conceded 50 goals. And that, at the end of the day, cost them. Even if it was just slightly, if, they had a bit of a stronger defence and a bit more solid, even in just a couple of games, they would have won the Premier League title. And your defence, you have to be as good going forward as you are at the back. And Liverpool always had problems with that. They messed about the transfer deal trying to get Virgil van Dijk. If they got Van Dijk into that side, they would have been absolutely sorted. And they need to invest in, 1 or 2 extreme centre-backs. But going forward, their midfield and attack is absolutely fine. Particularly if they've got Naby Keita coming in next summer. They're absolutely fine. They've got Salah, Firmino, Coutinho. They probably could do with maybe a world-class striker. But if they got that, they would be up there every single season, not just compete for the Premier League, but for the Champions League. I strongly believe that. Their last 3 results, West Ham away, which ended in Slaven Bilic getting the sack. They beat him in his final game by 4 goals. They beat Huddersfield by 3 goals still, but they had that embarrassment at Wembley, losing Spurs by 4 goals to 1. And that's what I'm talking about. They blitzed Huddersfield, they blitzed West Ham, but they lost 4-1 to Spurs. They lost 5-0 to Manchester City. Teams that win the Premier League, and this is coming from an Arsenal fan, they don't win the league conceding 4 goals or 5, 4 goals, 5 goals to your title rivals. It just doesn't happen whatsoever. And it's really frustrating. It must be really frustrating for Liverpool fans, because they see this, great firepower, this attacking, trio, which is scintillating, which is sizzling, which just absolutely can destroy every Premier League team in a way, a lot like Manchester City, but they can't defend. The difference with Liverpool and Manchester City, Manchester City this season, even though they look a little bit shaky at the back, can defend better than Liverpool, and that is why Manchester City are where they are and where Liverpool are where they are. They're only 3 points off the top four. They're 4 points behind Spurs and Manchester United. They are 12 points behind Manchester City. And for me, I don't think Liverpool are going to win the league. I don't think they are going to get anywhere near the top of the table, because I think their defence and their defensive problems will, in the end, cost them the Premier League title. I think going forward, the attacking fire that they've got and how well that they can attack is going to easily secure them and maybe sneak them into the top four. That is what they're really going to be battling with. They're going to be battling with Arsenal, with Chelsea for that final top four place, because I think Manchester City, Manchester United, Spurs will be the top three. So it's going to be a battle between those three clubs, and it's who can play more football. And Liverpool, I think at times, play better attacking football than Arsenal, better attacking football than Chelsea, but I think defensively that is where their weak point is. And I don't know. I don't think any Liverpool fan believes that they can win the Premier League. Yes, they've got a chance to win it. Any of the top six have a realistic chance of winning it. But is that just me, being, narcissistic rather than realistic? Probably, I'm not too sure whether actually Liverpool can sustain a true title challenge, but they need to work on their defence. If I was Jurgen Klopp, who has also come under a little bit of scrutiny, is a little bit under pressure, I think stick with Jurgen Klopp. You're going to be absolutely fine. He's been there now. This is going to be his third season. Give him time. Give him time. He will win you a trophy at some point. He's a great manager, great tactician. He knows how to get the best out of players. Yes, he's always struggled defensively with with Liverpool's problems, but I think he will, in the end, do well for Liverpool and will go down as a great Liverpool manager. But what I think Liverpool need to do, and also I do have a lot of respect, and I really do like Liverpool because of the way that they go about things. They got respect, with the Hillsborough stuff. They're just a club full of class, if I'm being perfectly honest. I have a lot of respect and time for Liverpool Football Club. But I think what they need to do, they're bringing in Naby Keita, they need to bring in Van Dijk. I would also look at bringing in Koulibaly, playing him, if you have Koulibaly, Van Dijk, and then bring in, as Jurgen Klopp knows very well, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. You have Aubameyang, Salah, and Mane as your front three. You have, Van Dijk and Koulibaly, as centre-backs. Maybe also bring in a world-class goalkeeper. Maybe look at trying to get, I don't know, Hugo Lloris or Keylor Navas maybe, or Oblak, a top goalkeeper like that, to bring into Liverpool. You will win the Premier League. I guarantee if Jurgen Klopp can bring in, those two centre-backs, Aubameyang, who's a fantastic striker, the best striker in the Bundesliga for me, up there with Lewandowski, and bring in a better goalkeeper, because I think Mignolet is not great. I think, Karius, again, he's a little bit dodgy, if we're being perfectly honest. Work on those 3-4 areas, and Liverpool will have an absolute force of a team. That is where I think Jurgen Klopp needs to look to strengthen. Two centre backs, a goalkeeper, and a striker. They've got a perfect midfield. Keita, Lallana, Henderson, Wijnaldum. And then you've got the likes of Coutinho, Firmino. The puzzle is starting to come together. They just need to put on those final parts and just tighten up at the back. Maybe bring in a world-class striker, and Liverpool are there. They are 100%, they will be there, and they will be able to cause any team any kind of problems whatsoever. They really, really do, and I generally believe that. In terms of their next 3 games, they've got Southampton at home, Chelsea at home, and Stoke away. Southampton at home should be an absolute given. They should be able to roll over Southampton quite comfortably and get probably like another result that they got against Huddersfield. Chelsea at home is a big game for Liverpool. They've got a good record, as I said earlier, against Chelsea. They're unbeaten, I think, in their last 5 games. They haven't lost them since Jose Mourinho's masterclass in his title-winning season. They've got a decent record against them. But if they've got any sort of hope getting into the top 4, these are the sorts of results and games that they've got to get. They've got to beat Chelsea. If they beat Chelsea, if Liverpool win at the weekend, Chelsea win against West Brom, which I think Chelsea will win against West Brom despite it being difficult. It will stay at 3 points. Liverpool win, they go 11 points for Chelsea, and they are right back in this top 4 race. And then Stoke away, tough game. And I can actually see Liverpool maybe getting a draw out of that one. I think Stoke are a great team. They're causing big teams problems. They beat Arsenal. They drew to Manchester United. They lost to Manchester City 7-2. So that's not great. But they have got a decent record against the big boys. And I think, that is going to be a tough game, particularly at the Britannia. Liverpool's defensive problems. Stoke will pounce on them. So I'm not too sure actually. I think Liverpool probably will pick up maybe 7 points maybe, because or 5 points. I feel maybe they will get a draw against Chelsea and Stoke and then beat Southampton. But I think whoever wins that game out of Chelsea and Liverpool will go a long way to them securing that top 4 position. Liverpool got some tough games coming up. You know, they've got Arsenal coming up just before Christmas, and that's going to be a very, very interesting game. They've just got to get consistency, and they've got to get as many wins as they can before Christmas, because they need to be, you know, round about the top 4. If they're 5, 6, 7 points off the top 4, you know, come the new year, then that is going to cause Liverpool, you know, a few problems. But yeah, going forward, they're absolutely superb. They're a fantastic team. It's just at the back that they lack that, you know, defensive structure. They lack the coherence, and they lack, you know, the strength, power, and intelligence you need to win a Premier League title. They're just short at the back. And if they can work on the defensive problems, you know, bring in a better goalkeeper, centre-back, they will be so much better, and they will be so close to winning their first title. And they haven't won the Premier League title for more than 25 years, but they are close. And I think Liverpool fans, you need to bear in mind that you are closer to the Premier League title than you think. So yeah, those are Liverpool's title chances. I don't think they're going to win the Premier League title. I don't think they're actually going to be in the title race, but I think their main priority is to get into the top 4. Liverpool currently, you know, in the Champions League right now, are doing fairly well. You know, I think they've got to win one more game to get into the last 16. But, you know, they need to maybe to win a trophy like the FA Cup. Or, you know, they're at the Carabao Cup, you know, win the FA Cup, do well in the Champions League, secure a Champions League position for next season, and go again. But I think if they get rid of Jurgen Klopp, that will be a huge mistake, because I think he's an incredible manager. And I think the longer that they have Jurgen Klopp at the club, Liverpool are going to do successful and do well in the long run. So that is Liverpool's title chances. Let's now finally discuss my club, Arsenal, and their title chances.
Brazil 2!
Now, I'm only going to briefly discuss Arsenal's title chances, because obviously, as you know, and you guys who follow the channel, I do my separate Analyse and Arsenal series, and this Living in the Prem series is kind of to discuss all the other Premier League teams, excluding Arsenal, because I already talk about them, you know, in an individual series on their own. But, you know, speaking about the top 6, we'll briefly touch on Arsenal. Do I think Arsenal have any chance winning the Premier League title? No, absolutely not. We have no chance winning the title. Our main objective is either to get it back into the Champions League for next season or win the Europa League. At the minute, I can't actually see us getting into that top 4. It's going to be really, really competitive. Obviously, I think Manchester, you know, City, United, Spurs have got the top 3 spots. So, you know, either Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal are going to miss out. And realistically, right now, when you look at form and you look at who has lost the most games, it's Arsenal. You know, who's played the worst football, Arsenal. So, you know, all kind of looking at all of the stats and statistics, it kind of points to one thing that Arsenal will be missing out on Champions League football yet again. However, if we beat Spurs on Saturday, which is a pivotal game to our season, and go on a good run, we can do anything. And on our day, we can beat absolutely anyone. And I'm absolutely 100% sure on that. You know my thoughts and feelings if you watch Analyse and Arsenal on the problems of the club and what I feel like needs to be changed. I'm not going to go into that again. But all I need is I just want Arsenal to turn up in one of the big games and absolutely smash it. You know, just beat Spurs, put in a top quality, big performance that says to not just Arsenal fans, but all fans out there, and says, we're not pushovers. We're going to fight, you know, for the badge that, you know, is poured on our shirt, and that we wear the shirt with pride, and we're going to fight to the death to ensure that we give the fans the best kind of chance to be successful. You know, we're already into the Europa League later stages. That, I think, will be our best avenue to get back into the Champions League, just like Manchester United did last season for us, because I think it's going to be really difficult to break into that top 4. And we just need to go on a good run. The 4 games that we've lost, you know, 2 of them absolutely battered by Manchester City and Liverpool. Against Stoke, we've been unlucky. You know, we really should have won that game. You know, we had a goal that was wrongly disallowed. We had lots of chances, and I wasn't too angry at that game. And against Watford, it was just, you know, as you saw from my rant, I just was absolutely livid at how we lost that game and the manner of how we lost that game. I was absolutely just so annoyed and frustrated with Arsenal for the way how they were in a winning position, they were in a golden position, and they just gave it away and petered out. And it was absolutely just horrendous, you know, from Arsenal. It really, really was. So yeah, I don't think we're going to win the title. I think our best bet is successful season will be to win the Europa League, you know, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, And, you know, it isn't going to be a successful season because Arsenal should be competing for the Premier League year on year, but we're nowhere near that quality yet. We've got to reinvest, we've got to bring in some top quality players, we've got to get rid of our board and our manager. You know, we've got a lot of problems. We are way off, you know, being anywhere near sort of the level that we need to be to compete for the Premier League title. So, you know, I don't think we're in the title race, but we are certainly in that Champions League race, and we just can't afford to lose again. If we lose to Man City and then to Spurs, it's just going to be the same pattern and the same song being played over and over again. And I spoke about it in a recent video, you know, the story of Arsenal's downfall. I'm not going to get into that all again. I don't think we're in the title race, but hopefully we can salvage something and start going on a big winning run. So that is the top 6, all analysed. That is the Premier League title race. Obviously, in my Premier League predictions and in an episode of the DJ Bagpuss show, I said that the top 6 at the end of the season would be Manchester United in first, Man City in second, Liverpool third, Chelsea fourth, Spurs fifth, Arsenal sixth. And at the minute, it looks like I've probably got 2 out of the 6 right. I think Man City will be first, Man United second, Spurs third. I think Chelsea will finish the season in fourth, and then it'll be Liverpool in fifth, Arsenal in sixth. But who knows what can happen with us? There's still a lot of football to be played. You know, we've got 27 games still to play for the Premier League. We've played there. Got 27 games still to play. That's a lot of football to play. Anything can happen. We saw it last season. You know, Chelsea, nobody expected them to win the Premier League. They went on an amazing run and ended up being Premier League champions. Anything can happen in this amazing Premier League. And who is just so excited and glad that after this horrible, you know, pathetic, boring international break, the Premier League returns at the weekend. I'm so excited about that. That is going to be the second Living in the Prem series concluded and finally finished. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I will be doing a Living in the Prem episode every month. We're going to be getting back to kind of reviewing each month in the Premier League. The next one is going to be probably around about mid-December, where I review November in the Premier League, give my thoughts again on the title race, on the relegation and all that good stuff. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, turn on all my notifications. Apologies again for the blocked up nose. I hope we'll get rid of this cold, and it's just the worst time to be getting cold. But analyse an Arsenal video. We're doing a video for the North London derby on Saturday and a game against Cologne next week. All that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter at DJPrems1998. Let me know who you think is going to win the Premier League, all of those Premier League predictions. Let me know down in the comment section below. Also tweet me at DJPrems1998. Again, it's DJ Pepper sign out. But for now, I will leave you with the Premier League table. And until next time, I shall speak to you later. Take care, and I shall see you all soon.